Hello, welcome back for another Tuesday talk. This one is also done on Friday, so I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to pull this off every single week doing a Tuesday extra video, but we'll do it till I can't handle it anymore. This week's topic is going to be all about my social center time. I had some questions about that. So I'm going to first explain how I set it up, and then I'll show you some of the resources we use to make it manageable. First thing is how I set it up, which is on our smart board. I can show you in a minute. Well, you've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, I'll show you what it looks like. I have a picture of all the choices on there, and I take a screenshot of it and I circle the ones that are open. While I'm doing this, all the kids are sitting on the rug and they have these little people. I'll show you those too. And they're holding their little person, and I call their name and I say, which choice would you like to play? And so this is a great time for them to work on their, choice making, and they're using a sentence. And they would say, I want to play at Play-Doh. And so then they take their little person and they go over to we have them all set up. They're like these little cards, and it says 1, 2, 3 Velcro, and they put their person on it. So once there's 3 people, the card is full and no one else can go to Play-Doh. So we go through the list and everybody gets to pick. Okay, so sometimes we'll choose, if it's their birthday, they get to pick first, or other days we'll even use it as a behavior incentive, like, wow, you've had such a great day, you get to choose your play center first, or, ooh, I'm gonna pick friends who are sitting nicely on the rug. So all different ways of how to choose. Some days we literally just look at the clipboard and go in order of how their names are on our little papers that we send home. So, okay, so then they go, they're playing, the teachers are interacting with them, and this is the big part that might be a little different than other ways that you could do it. Some people choose to use those 1, 2, 3 papers where a kid can be like, all right, I'm done with Play-Doh. I'm just gonna take my person off and find a different center that's open, like maybe blocks. There's only 2 people at blocks, so there's room for me. And then they can put their person on there and start playing with blocks. That doesn't work for me. I tried it, I did try it, and what was happening was some of the students were just leaving their mess and just getting up and going. Other problems that I ran into is that they were staying at a center for 1 minute and then being like, I'm done, and not really interacting with anyone and getting bored too fast. And the other problem I had is my students with an IEP, they are working on staying in a preferred task for a certain amount of time, or staying in a non-preferred task for a certain amount of time. And that wasn't able to be tracked, except for during learning time, if they were allowed to just do whatever they wanted at whatever time. So how I do it is we set a timer for 15 minutes. Sometimes it's a little longer. I have a 30-minute block right now for play centers before lunch, and by the time everybody chooses and they use the bathroom and clean up and all that, it's kind of 20 minutes, which is a little long because then they do get bored, but it's managing well. Anyway, so they stay at that center the entire time, and then I ring the bell and that signals them to clean up, and they take their little person off and they come back down to the rug. So it's the same as what I said last week with centers. The rug is our cleanup spot. So they're sitting on the rug again, and then depending on how it is, if we're doing 1 rotation or 2, or only doing 1 rotation, then they line up their people on the rug, because when we come back from lunch, we do play centers again. Today we had 2 rotations, so they held their little person, and I just went through the list again. I went a different way, picked different people, and then they got to choose what they wanted to play, took their person to the place, stayed there, cleanup bell, came back to the rug. So it's pretty structured, but they have choice, and they have to deal with dilemma. If maybe a friend isn't making the best choices that day, they didn't get to pick their play center first, and Apple Orchard is full, then they have to learn how to handle oh, that's full there, I gotta pick my second choice. And in the beginning it's rough, but now smooth sailing, they get it, they understand. Okay, let me get some of the stuff to show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of be far away so you don't see anybody's face, but this is the silver bucket. It's still here because we just left a lunch and that's where we leave it. Inside the silver bucket are the little clips. So I'm gonna grab a clip, cover a face, and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is what it looks like. We just put Velcro, it's kind of blurry, but Velcro on the bottom. We put their name with tape, and then we just cut out their little picture and put it on there. And so they stick it on. So I'm gonna take our little friend Ovella, and we're gonna walk over. Let's say she wanted to do the apple orchard. Here's the apple orchard, and she just puts it and sticks her little person right there. Can't let go because then, you know, you would see. But it sticks on, right? So it's Velcroed on. And then they can fill the spots. Okay, so I'm going to walk around the class and show you. So dramatic play, apple orchard. Then we have the choice of blocks. We have computers, and we usually just set up the computers right at this table. Keep going here. I have another spot that sometimes I can put something on here like cars. I also have STEM bins, which are actually just our morning buckets that we have covered here, just like our morning table toys. That's where we keep our blocks, puzzles. That's another one that I can trade out. I can put puzzles on that one if we're opening puzzles, or I can put, any of them are Velcroed on, so I can switch them all around. Then under here, we keep our, like there's an animal one, there's the cars and the puzzles, okay? So then if we keep going this way, we have, gotta be careful with this one because you see pictures, but we have our sensory, and then you see my friends forgot to take their people off, which happens still, and they put it right here because the sensory bin is here. Then if we come this way, we have the art table because this is where they do the art project, but then we also moved our easel over here now so that if we start painting, it's not on the rug. Then if we walk this way, we have our Play-Doh one here, and Play-Doh plays at this table, as you can see, with all the crumbs and probably the floor. Then we have Dollhouse because we have the Dollhouse right here. Over here, we have the Reading Center because we have the reading stuff right here. We have the Fidgets one right here because the fidget stuff is right here. And then, like I said, I have some of those extra ones, and this is where I keep them. So if I wanted to put cars out, we'll put that out. We have puzzles. We have a tablet one, but not really. We don't use the teacher time one either. Writing, we haven't opened up yet, but I have these like writing board things they can use. Alphabet, if they wanted to do some alphabet activities. Science. Smartboard we do use, because then they can play on the smartboard drawing. Games, if I start pulling out games, and then math bins we probably won't use. We just have all these made because I printed them that way, but I can link this down below. It's in my store for what I use. Okay, and then finally is the slide that you guys have seen many times. This has the same pictures of the centers that we use. So when they see it circled, they go and they look for that picture on the paper that has the 1, 2, 3. So everything matches. That way they understand where it is and what it looks like. Okay, this Tuesday talk might be a little bit shorter. I think that pretty much wraps up how I do social centers. The things that do change, like always, is the sensory bin. So even though sensory is always open, the things that are in sensory bin are different. Play-Doh is always open, but the activities they do with Play-Doh is different. And then obviously our dramatic play is different as well. We're about to switch it to our pumpkin patch. And then also the art project is different. Cars, puzzles, table toys, blocks, fidgets, like all of those, Dollhouse, those all stay the same. And we don't put everything out either. That's a very big one. I think I open, like, depends on how many kids I have that day, probably about 5 centers at a time, because if you open everything, then they might all be spread out and there's no interaction time, which is what it's for, is social centers, learning how to share, which is a really big one, and learning how to deal with disagreements and things like that. So I really hope this helps. It's lunchtime is almost over. We're about to go sweat for the fun run. And if you like this video, don't forget that thumbs up, that subscribe, and that notification bell. And I think next week somebody was asking about poems, so I could do that topic as well. And as always, if you have any other ideas for things that you have questions about in my room, go down below.